Hey, welcome to Dow Stock Talk, where I talk about topics relating to investing and finance, but more specifically the stock market. Now in this video, I'll be comparing Apple and Microsoft, which one's the better buy. And I would just like to mention that this video is for educational and entertainment purposes only, so make sure you do your own due diligence. Okay, so in this video, I'll be comparing Apple and Microsoft, which one's the better buy. But before we get started, make sure you smash the like button because it helps the YouTube algorithm. It helps YouTube know that this is quality content and helps my videos reach a broader audience. Okay, so we have Apple and Microsoft. Let's go head to head. Okay, so here's the structure of this video. The first part will be the business model. The second part will be major components. The third part will be streams of income. And the last but not least, we'll have the in-depth analysis. So by the end of this video, given this current price between Apple and Microsoft, you'll know which one is the better buy. By the way, I provided timestamps so you can skip around to your liking. So Microsoft is a multi-tech company where they offer licensing, software, online services, and electric products. Apple, on the other hand, they're a multi-tech company. They offer electric products, online services, and software. The primary thing is Apple is more so known for its products. Microsoft is more known for its software. All right, so now that that's squared away, let's go over the major components. So some major highlights from Apple is we have the iPhone, Apple Store, iPad, Apple Pay, Apple TV, Apple Music, Apple Watch. That's some of the highlights from Apple. So for Microsoft, we have Windows, Azure, Xbox, Microsoft Office, Bing, Outlook, LinkedIn, and Microsoft Edge, aka Internet Explorer. Okay, so now we're going to go over their streams of income, and this will be the breakdown from 2018. It's pretty much a similar model, but for 2018, Apple produced $265 billion. 62% of the sales came from iPhone, 7.1 came from the iPad, 9.6 came from the Mac, 14% of that came from Apple Pay, Apple Music, Apple TV, 6.6 came from other products. Now on Microsoft, on the other hand, the streams of income is a little bit more diverse. Here was the breakdown. Azure is 23.7%, Windows is 17.7%, gaming is 9.4%, 6.4% comes from Search Edge from Bing, 5.3% comes from enterprise services, 4.7% comes from devices, 4.8% comes from LinkedIn, and 2.5% comes from others. Okay, now let's look at the revenue. The revenue from Apple from 2017 is $229 billion. For 2018 is $265 billion. 2019 is $260 billion. And for 2020, it's $274 billion. Now for Microsoft, on the other hand, the revenue for 2017 is $96 billion. 2018 is $110 billion. 2019 is $125 billion. And for 2020 is $143 billion. So for the revenue, we would have to give that to Apple. Now let's look at Microsoft earnings. For 2017, it's $25 billion. For 2018, it's $16 billion. For 2019, it's $39 billion. And for 2020, it's $44 billion. Now let's go to the earnings. For the earnings, Apple from 2017, $48 billion. For 2018 was $59 billion. For 2019, it's $55 billion. And for 2020, it's $57 billion. So for earnings, we will have to give that to Apple as well. Okay, now for the in-depth analysis, let's go to Simply Wall Street. Okay, so we're on Simply Wall Street. We have Microsoft on the left. We have Apple on the right. All right, so as of November 27th, Microsoft's share price is $215.23, where Apple's share price is $116.59. So if we're looking at performance, if we're looking at 1 year performance, Microsoft was 42.2% versus Apple, which is 74.5%. So we have to give it to Apple on that one. From a validation perspective, if we're looking at P/E ratio, the lower the better, but if you want to check out all the other financial metrics and what they mean, just check the suggested video. Microsoft P/E ratio is 34 versus Apple is 35, so the lower the better, so we have to give it to Microsoft on that one. If we're looking at it from a validation perspective, we have Microsoft on the left, Apple on the right. According to simple Wall Street analysts, Microsoft is 10.5% overvalued, whereas Apple is 71.4% overvalued. This is based off of previous discounted cash flow, so Microsoft will end up winning there because it's least expensive. Okay, for price to earnings growth, we had 3.3 for Microsoft, we have 4.3 for Apple. The lower the better, so we're going to have to go with Microsoft on that one. Okay, price to book, we have 13.2. For Microsoft, we have 30.3. For Apple, the lower the better, so we're going to have to go with Microsoft. For future growth, we're looking at Microsoft, that's on the left, Apple is on the right. So future growth for Apple, based off of analysts in the next 1 to 3 years, is 10.6%. For Apple, 8.3%. Once again, this is based off of analysts, so we're going to have to go with Microsoft on that. Okay, so for future return on equity, for Microsoft, we have 36.3%, where for Apple, we have 244.1%. However, this one is very screwed because if you'll see for the past performance, because Apple has a large amount of debt, the numbers are screwed, but we'll give Apple the benefit of the doubt in this one, but this for return of equity, this is very misleading. So I have to put an asterisk, but I'll still give Apple the benefit of the doubt. For based off of the past performance over the past 5 years, the historic annual earnings growth was 27.4% versus Apple's, which was 4.1, so we have to get it to Microsoft for that one. So for return on equity, for Microsoft, we had, which is very high for Microsoft, is 38.5. Apple, on the other hand, is 87.9. But once again, you can see what I mentioned earlier. The high rate of, even though it's a high rate of return, this metrics is screwed due to high levels of debt. So in this case, I will not judge it because Microsoft is really good and Apple's numbers are screwed. So I'll just throw them out for both of them. Now for return on assets, Microsoft is 15.8, Apple is 17.5. We're going to give that to Apple. So for return on capital employed, for Microsoft we have 24.3. For return on capital employed for Apple, we have 30.3. So we have to give that one to Apple. Financial health, I'm going to have to go with Microsoft. The reason why I'm going with Microsoft, because Microsoft short assets cover the short-term and long-term liability, whereas Apple's short-term assets does not cover the long-term liability. So even though that's kind of a tit for tat, but we're going off of which one is the best, so I'm going to have to go with Microsoft on that one. Now if we're looking at it as far as the debt to equity, what I'm going to have to go to, if we're looking at cash, if we're looking at cash equity, if we're looking at debt, equity, and cash, I'm going to have to go with Microsoft because Microsoft has way more cash than Apple. Even though Apple has the larger market cap, Microsoft also has a much higher equity compared to Apple. And Apple, as you can see, their debt is higher than their cash and equity. So for that financial standpoint, I'm going to have to give that one to Microsoft. For dividend, Microsoft pays 1.04%. Apple is 0.70%. This one I don't really weigh too heavily, but Microsoft is the higher dividend, so we're going to have to go with Microsoft on that. For experience management and experience board, I'm going to have to give that a tie. Both has good management and a good board. Okay, so based off our criteria, Microsoft will be the better buy or the better bargain at the current share price. Both companies are good, but based off of our assessment that we did, we determined that Microsoft was the better buy. But that concludes this video. Make sure you hit the like button. And if you're new, make sure you subscribe to my channel. And also, by the way, let me know which one do you think is the better buy between Apple and Microsoft.